Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my CH Hanel. Enjoy the listening. Centuries of silence, broken humanity's epic return to power. The awakening High Commander Zech of the Galactic Conclave stared at the holographic projection of what had once been human space. 270 years had passed since humanity had simply disappeared. One day, the noisy, ambitious species that had been rapidly expanding throughout their solar system and making their first tentative steps to nearby stars had gone silent. All 9 billion of them vanished without a trace. "Status report on the annual Earth Preservation Inspection," Zech said to his aide, a slender Phelan with iridescent skin who stood attentively at his side. "The preservation teams report no change, Commander. The human home world continues its natural recovery. Wildlife populations have rebounded significantly. The atmospheric carbon levels have finally stabilized. Their structures continue to decay at the expected rate." Zech nodded. The mystery of humanity's disappearance had consumed the Conclave's attention for decades before becoming merely another historical curiosity. The humans' absence had created a power vacuum in their sector, one that the member species of the Conclave had quickly filled. Human colonies, barely established, had been claimed and expanded, their resources, their planets, their technologies all absorbed into the greater galactic community. "Very well, schedule the next inspection." A junior communications officer burst into the command chamber, breaking all protocols. Her crest was fully extended, a sign of extreme distress among the Ametri. "High Commander, we're detecting signals from human space." Zech's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. "Elaborate." "Energy signatures, sir. Hundreds of them appearing simultaneously across formerly human territories and transmissions in human languages." The command center fell silent. The preservation of human historical sites had been more symbolic than practical. No one had expected the humans to actually return. "Show me," Zech ordered. The holographic display shifted, now showing a scatter of bright points across the old human territories. Some were stationary, former colonies and outposts. Others were moving, ships, presumably, all giving off energy signatures unlike anything in the Conclave database. "The transmissions, sir. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The command center speakers crackled to life, and a calm, measured human voice filled the room. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the United Earth Fleet. After 270 years of absence from this dimensional plane, humanity has returned to reclaim what is ours. We seek peaceful transition of authority over our former territories. Please respond on this frequency to establish diplomatic channels. Resistance is unnecessary." Zech felt a cold sensation run down his spine. There was something in the human's tone, not threatening exactly, but utterly confident, as if the outcome was already determined. "Verify this," he ordered. "I want visual confirmation." Within hours, the first images arrived from a Conclave patrol vessel near what had once been a small human mining outpost on a moon of Proxima Centauri. The footage showed a sleek vessel of unmistakably human design, but far more advanced than anything they had possessed before their disappearance. It hovered near the abandoned outpost, bathed in a soft blue glow that seemed to distort the space around it. "Sir," the patrol captain reported, "they're not responding to our hails. They're simply reclaiming the outpost. Systems are coming online. It's as if they never left." Over the next 3 days, reports flooded in from across the sector. Humans were appearing everywhere, reclaiming their former territories with calm efficiency. They weren't attacking Conclave forces, merely ignoring them. When direct confrontations did occur, the humans simply disabled Conclave vessels without destroying them, then continued their work. "This cannot stand," declared Ambassador Vox of the Trayan Empire, the largest power to have expanded into former human space. "We have established colonies, mining operations, and trade routes throughout these regions for over 2 centuries. These are legally our territories now." The emergency conclave session had devolved into chaos. 12 species, all with competing interests in former human space, arguing over how to respond to the impossible return of humanity. "I propose we establish a diplomatic mission," said Ambassador Lairl of the Phelan Collective. "These humans appear to be far more advanced than they were. We need to understand what happened to them, where they've been, and what they want." "What they want is obvious," Vox retorted. "They want their planets back, planets we have developed and populated." Perhaps we should ask them directly, Zech interrupted, silencing the chamber. I will lead a diplomatic mission to meet with these returned humans. 2 days later, Zech's diplomatic vessel approached the designated meeting point, a neutral space station at the edge of what had once been human territory. As they neared, a human ship appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. One moment empty space, the next a vessel larger than Zech's own, gleaming with a metallic sheen that somehow absorbed rather than reflected light. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "On screen," Zech ordered, straightening his ceremonial collar. A human woman appeared on the view screen. She had dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and eyes that seemed to hold depths beyond their apparent age. "High Commander Zech, I am Admiral Helena Chen. Thank you for accepting my invitation." "Admiral Chen, the Galactic Conclave wishes to understand your intentions. Your sudden return has caused considerable concern." "Understandable. Perhaps we should discuss this in person." The meeting took place aboard the space station. Zech and his small delegation were escorted to a conference room where Admiral Chen waited with 3 other humans: a tall man with pale skin, a woman with features suggesting East Asian ancestry, and a person of indeterminate gender whose skin had an unusual bluish tint. "Allow me to introduce Science Director Marcus Acaffer, Security Chief Lanway, and Dimensional Navigator Ash," Chen said, gesturing to each in turn. Zech noticed that the humans moved with unnatural grace, as if gravity affected them differently. There was something distinctly other about them now. "We understand you have questions," Chen began. "First, I must inform you that the territories you are attempting to reclaim have been legally settled by Conclave members for generations," Zech said firmly. "While we sympathize with your situation, these worlds are no longer yours." Chen smiled slightly. "High Commander, we appreciate the diplomatic approach, but let me be clear, we aren't asking permission. We're offering a peaceful transition instead of simply taking what is rightfully ours." "Is that a threat?" "An observation," the one called Ash said, speaking for the first time. Their voice had an unusual harmonic quality. "Your ships cannot detect us until we wish to be seen. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your shields cannot stop us." "Where have you been?" Zech asked bluntly. "How does an entire species disappear, then return centuries later with technology far beyond what you possessed?" The humans exchanged glances, then Science Director Acaffer spoke. "In simple terms, High Commander, we found a door, and when we went through it, it closed behind us." He activated a holographic display showing what appeared to be a tier in space itself, swirling with colors that hurt Zech's eyes to look at directly. "In the year 2189, our scientists discovered what we now call a dimensional rift near Saturn. It appeared suddenly, defying all known physics. We sent probes, then ships to investigate." "The entire species went through this door?" Zech asked skeptically. "Not intentionally," Admiral Chen said. "The rift was unstable. It expanded rapidly, enveloping Earth and our colonies within hours. Every human across our territory was pulled through. We couldn't stop it." "On the other side," Acaffer continued, "we found ourselves in a place where time moved differently. What has been 270 years for you has been approximately 30 years for us." "And you've spent these 30 years what? Surviving, adapting?" Zech asked. "Evolving," said Chen simply. "Our bodies changed in response to that environment. Our technology developed along entirely new principles, and we searched for a way home." "How did you return?" "We learned to create our own rifts," Ash said with obvious pride. "Controlled ones, we can now move between dimensions at will." Zech felt a chill run through him. The implications were enormous. A species that could move between dimensions, that had evolved in an environment with different physical laws. "What exactly do you want?" he asked directly. "Earth, our colonies, our space," Chen said simply. "We understand others have built lives there. We're willing to give them time to relocate, or they may apply for citizenship in human territory if they wish to stay." "The Conclave won't simply hand over settled worlds," Zech warned. Security Chief Wei, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. "With respect, High Commander, we aren't asking the Conclave's permission. We're offering a courtesy because, despite our transformation, we still value diplomacy." "Then why talk at all?" Zech challenged. "Because we're still human," Chen said. "We still value cooperation, understanding, and peace. We'd rather find a solution that works for everyone, but make no mistake, we will reclaim what is ours with or without the Conclave's blessing. As the meeting continued, Zetch realized that humanity's return wasn't just an inconvenience or a political challenge. It was the beginning of a fundamental shift in the galaxy's balance of power. When he returned to the Conclave, his report was simple and sobering. The humans have changed. What they experienced in that other dimension has transformed them. They aren't the same species that vanished 270 years ago. There's something more, and they are going to reshape our galaxy, whether we cooperate or not. Captain Alara Voss stood on the bridge of the reclamation vessel Prometheus, watching the planet below. Once called New Eden by humans, the Tresserians had renamed it Vox Prime after claiming it during humanity's absence. Now it would be human again. "Status report," Alara said calmly. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Kai, checked his displays. Trayan Defense Fleet in position. 17 battleships, 35 cruisers, numerous fighters. They've activated all planetary defense systems. Alara nodded. The Tresserians were the first to reject the peaceful transition offered by humanity. They had built their empire on former human worlds and refused to give them up without a fight. "Open communication channel," she ordered. The face of Admiral Rixus, commander of the Tresserian fleet, appeared on screen. His scaled skin was darkened with anger, and his jaw crest fully extended, a sign of aggression in his species. "This is your final warning, human. Leave Tricarian space immediately or face destruction." Alara regarded him calmly. "Admiral, we have no desire for conflict. We are simply reclaiming what was ours. Your people will be given safe passage." "Nothing here is yours anymore," Rixus snapped. "These worlds have been Tresserian for 2 centuries. We built these cities. We terraformed these moons. You built on our foundations," Alara interrupted gently. "Using our technologies, mining our resources. I'll ask one final time, will you allow peaceful transition?" "Never." The channel closed. "They're charging weapons," reported Lieutenant Kai. "Deploy phase shields," Alara ordered. Around the 5 human ships, barely visible distortions appeared in space. The technology had been developed during their time in the other dimension, where physics worked differently. Science Director Akefer had discovered how to create localized fields where those alternative physics still applied. The Trarian fleet opened fire. Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human vessels. When they hit the phase shields, they simply disappeared, not deflected, not absorbed. They ceased to exist in this dimension. "Phase drives active," announced the navigator. "Proceed," said Alara. The human ships flickered and reappeared behind the Trarian fleet. Before Admiral Rixus could react, tendrils of blue energy reached out from the human vessels, touching each Trayan ship. The energy didn't damage them, it simply shut them down. "All Tresserian vessels neutralized," reported Kai. "Power systems offline, life support functioning on emergency backup only." Alara opened the channel again. Admiral Rixus's bridge was now dim, lit only by emergency lighting. What did you do to my ships?" Rixus demanded, his earlier bravado replaced by bewilderment. "We isolated them from the energy flows of this dimension," Alara explained. "They'll remain functional enough to keep your crews alive but unable to fight. Now about that peaceful transition." Similar scenes played out across former human space. Most civilizations, seeing what happened to the Trarians, chose to accept humanity's terms. A few resisted. None succeeded. On Earth itself, now a museum planet preserved by the Galactic Conclave, the first human feet in 270 years touched the soil. Science Director Akefer knelt and picked up a handful of dirt, letting it run through his fingers. "Home," he whispered, "it feels strange." Beside him, Admiral Chen surveyed the overgrown ruins of what had once been Singapore. "It will take time to rebuild." "Do we even need to?" Akefer asked. "We've changed so much. Our bodies are different now, our needs, our capabilities." It was true. During their time in the other dimension, humans had adapted. Their bodies had become more efficient, requiring less food and oxygen. Their minds had developed new ways of perceiving reality. Some, like Ash, could even manipulate the boundary between dimensions with thought alone. "We rebuild because this is still our home," Chen said firmly. "We may have changed, but we're still human." Across human space, the reclamation continued. Captain Voss's fleet methodically moved from world to world, system to system. Most transitions were peaceful, those that weren't were quickly resolved. On Proxima Centauri, once the site of humanity's first extrasolarly colony, the Cygnes Corporation had built a massive mining operation. When human ships appeared, the corporation's CEO, a wealthy Phelan named Themed, immediately requested a meeting. Unlike the military confrontations with species like the Tressarians, this meeting took place in the luxurious offices of Cygnes headquarters. Captain Voss and Lieutenant Kai were escorted through displays of wealth extracted from the planet's crust. Themed, a tall figure with translucent skin through which multiple hearts could be seen pulsing, greeted them warmly. "Captain, welcome to Cygnes Prime. I've been looking forward to meeting you." "Thank you for agreeing to talk," Voss replied politely. Themed waved a limb dismissively. "The Trarians are fools. Fighting against the inevitable is bad business, and I am, above all, a businessman." "Then you accept that this planet will return to human control?" "Of course, but I hope we can come to an arrangement. Cygnes has invested billions in the infrastructure here. Our operations employ thousands." Voss nodded. "We're prepared to discuss transitional arrangements. In fact, we may have an interesting proposition for you." 6 months after humanity's return, High Commander Zech was summoned to Earth. The planet had changed dramatically. While much of the natural recovery had been preserved, human cities were rising again, though they looked nothing like the structures from historical records. These buildings seemed to flow with the landscape, made of materials that shifted colors with the changing light. Admiral Chen met him at the New Earth Council headquarters, a structure that appeared to be simultaneously solid and fluid. "High Commander, thank you for coming," she said, leading him through corridors where gravity seemed optional. Humans moved in 3 dimensions, some walking on what Zech would consider walls or ceilings. "You've been busy," Zech observed. "We have much to rebuild, but also much to offer." Chen led him to a chamber where representatives from across the galaxy, including many conclave species, were gathered. "We're establishing new diplomatic and trade relations. Our dimensional technology has applications that could benefit everyone." "And what do you want in return?" "Partners, not subjects," Chen said. "The universe is far larger than any of us imagined. During our time away, we learned that there are threats out there beyond conventional understanding. We'll need allies." Zech studied her. "You've changed more than you've told us, haven't you?" Chen smiled enigmatically. "Come, there's something you should see." She led him to a secure chamber deep within the facility. Inside was what appeared to be a window, but instead of showing the landscape outside, it revealed something else: swirling energies, impossible geometries, colors that shouldn't exist. "What am I looking at?" Zech asked, feeling suddenly small. "The place where we were trapped," Chen said quietly. "We call it the Between. It exists in the space between dimensions. We weren't the only ones there, Commander." Zech turned to her, seeing the weight of experience in her eyes. What else was there? Entities, intelligences, some benevolent, others not. They've been watching our universe for a very long time. Some of them are interested in expanding their influence. "Are you saying there's a threat to the galaxy, to reality itself?" Chen nodded grimly. "We learned to defend ourselves against them. We learned our weaknesses. That's why we fought so hard to return, not just for our homes, but to prepare this dimension." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because the Conclave needs to understand what's at stake. The changes we've made to our former territories, they're not just about reclaiming what was ours. They're about creating defensive positions against incursions from the Between." Zech looked back at the window. For a moment, he thought he saw something move within the chaotic energies, something vast and fundamentally wrong. "How long do we have?" he asked. "We don't know. It could be decades. It could be centuries, but they're coming." Chen closed the viewing portal. "That's why we need to stand together." As Zech departed Earth, he watched the transformed planet recede from view. Humanity had returned, but not as conquerors, as harbingers. They had seen beyond the veil of reality and come back changed, bringing warnings of things that dwelled in the spaces between dimensions. The galaxy would never be the same. The humans had been gone for centuries, and now they were back, evolved, transformed, and preparing for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever known. A war not for territory or resources, but for reality itself. and nothing in this dimension could stand in their way. But perhaps Zetch thought that was exactly what the galaxy needed.